You're now tuned into the Lady Charmaine live show, and I'm your host, Lady Charmaine. And of course, as always, I got another great interview for you today. What do you get when you mix good looks, baseball arms, football legs, and also a face for the big and small screen? Well, you get my next guest, and I tell you who it is coming up right after this. My guest today is an actor who went from being a professional baseball player to starring in movies and television shows like Being Mary Jane, Friday Night Lights, Imposters, Moneyball, and more to come. But he's here today to talk about the entertainment release of Till Death Do Us Part. Help me welcome back to the Lady Charmaine live show, Mr. Stephen Bishop. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Lady Charmaine, for having me back. It's good. It's only been a few years. I missed you, so I'm happy to be back.
Absolutely, been about three. Not too long, just about 3 years. But Stephen, we were just talking off the air, and you are a Bay Area native. Now, did you grow up in Moraga?
I did. I grew up in Moraga. Here's the chronological history. Chicago till 9 years old, 10 years old. Fremont for teenage and young adult years, and then Atlanta from there, and from there Los Angeles.
Okay, because the phone kind of went out a little bit. You say you went to Fremont, and then where after Fremont?
Moraga after Fremont.
Okay, yeah, my husband graduated from St. Mary's in Moraga.
Really? Wow, that's crazy, because I almost went there myself. I actually, before I took my baseball scholarship, I was offered one at St. Mary's, and because it was so close to home, I just needed to get away, or thought I wanted to get away. And but St. Mary's is a beautiful campus. They had a great team, and a few of my friends played there, and I still go to Moraga once a year. So it's that's a great place to be up there.
Well, if you would have went, I saw your age. If you would have went, you would have been there with my husband. So y'all would have been schoolmates at the same time. But I wanted to talk to you about your movie that's coming out. It's called Till Death Do Us Part. And this is a really dark role for you, Stephen. So I kind of wanted to dive into that and the role. What intrigued you about this role? And tell us about your role so people can know the role that you played and about the movie.
Well, what intrigued me was just what you said. It's very dark, and it's a complete departure from what I normally have been cast to do. So I wanted to show myself and the world that I had, more range than what I was showing at the time. I played Michael Rowland, who is, he's a businessman, and he's doing very well. He's got a beautiful wife. They're wanting to have children, and they get into the position where they're about to have children, and he is unfortunately the victim of abuse, physical abuse from his father, and he goes through most of his life having that not affect him much, but when he starts feeling the pressure of the pregnancy and things like that, he snaps, and he ends up being abusive to his wife while she's pregnant, and then the leak. That's about as far as I can go without giving away any spoilers.
So what did you have to do to prepare for such a role like this, knowing that you were going to have to be in the mindset of an abuser and come across on the screen, of course, to make it believable?
It's a really good question. It was very difficult, actually, because it's a very, very much a departure from who I am as a person. I'm very anti-domestic violence, and I have sisters, so I'm very, protective of women in general. But I had to do, and what I had to do was I had to allow, certain demons that we all have. We all have demons in our life. Them, and I had to allow demons to come to the surface and live there. So I had to go to a really dark place and allow myself to stay there for the few weeks that we were it was difficult because it was difficult to get in and it was difficult to get out, because when you're there and you're allowing all of your impulses to actually be there. When you allow anger to show up, at the slightest irritant. It's difficult to live that way. I was actually coaching Little League at the time, and I'm sure some of my kids were like, "Man, what's wrong with Coach, man? He's mad today." So it was difficult, but it was definitely very rewarding to find myself in that depth of darkness and be able to use it. And have it come across as well as it did on the screen.
Because even Michael B. Jordan said when he was doing Black Panther, he had went into a depression and he had kind of like withdrew from people because he had got so into his role. So that's why I wanted to ask you about that. Now, okay. Now, Stephen.
Yeah, I understand what he's saying. I mean, like I said, it took me a couple of weeks to come out, and that's what I think the depression, his role was his was a lot longer, because I know they shot, Black Panther for a really long time. But I think I felt some of that depression on the back end of this. Like I said, it took a couple of weeks to actually come out of this character's mentality, and really stop feeling the energy of him and the emotion of him and the irritability of him. So I totally relate to what Michael B. Jordan is talking about there.
Now, that is really deep. But, okay, now this is what I was going to say. I host the Hot Topic show, and I got a real quick hot topic for you because I know you're a dad, and I think you just had a baby last year, so congratulations. So I said I got a hot topic for you. Okay, now here it is. Now, should child support – here's the question. Should child support be based off a parent's salary? If so, should a portion go towards the savings or trust for the child's future in college, or should the quote-unquote mother get the full $20,000 a month? What do you think?
Wow, that's a great question. I think that it's a longer answer, I'm sure, than we have time for. I do think it should be based off of a salary, but I think that there should be a limit to it. I don't think that there's any need for somebody that's making, $30 million a year to be paying, $45,000-$50,000 a month for child support. But I do think that some should be set aside for the child in later years. I think that's a great idea. Actually, I hadn't really thought of that before, but I think it's a great idea that some of that, a good, significant portion of that, go towards the child, after 18 years, so that they have something to an adult. I think that when parents split up, it's very unfortunate. I actually, was a product of a divorce, and my mother went to work very hard after my father and her split, and I just feel like everybody needs to play their part, whether it be a father that has an ex-partner that makes more than him, or a mother that has an ex-partner that makes more than her. They still should be, doing the best they can to work and provide for the child, even though they are getting supplemental income from the ex-significant other. I have no problem with child support. I think it's a huge boon to the child. I think it's a necessity. I think it's something that is very much a responsibility. But I think the system needs to be looked at, and because I've heard so many stories. I know a lot of pro athletes and entertainers that are just paying these exorbitant amounts of money for child support, and it doesn't all end up going to the child. I know that for a fact. So it's a great question, though.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I want to remind the audience to make sure that you go and pick up your copy of Till Death Do Us Part, just in time for Christmas. Again, thank you so much, Stephen, for coming back on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye. And again, that was my guest, Mr. Stephen Bishop. Make sure you go pick up Till Death Do Us Part. It's also starring Mr. Taye Diggs. It's a very dark thriller. It's a psychological thriller. So you guys go make sure that you go ahead and check that out. And also, I'm going to be doing another movie night. I want you guys to join me to see Creed. If you want to see Creed 2, if you haven't seen Creed 1, make sure you go check out Creed 1 because I'm hosting Lady Charmaine's Night Out at the Movies to see Creed 2. Go to LadyCharmaineLive.com to get all of the details. Also register right there. You'll receive an email from me, and I would love for you to join me at the movies. And again, thank you to my special guest, Mr. Stephen Bishop.